Stand by for action.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Abe Miller. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. I want to thank everyone who has stuck with me throughout the Way Back series. It's something that I felt compelled to do, and I will be moving on to other things after. But for now, I'm compelled to add to the series by including the last of a set of commentaries on the way back between myself and the underground professor of UGP Radio. Now, the underground professor has an excellent program which I encourage people to listen to, available through Periscope, Pundit Press Media, Blog Talk Radio, and other media outlets. Please check the Prof's Blog Talk Radio webpage for showtimes. These programs will not be as heavily edited as is the norm, because the discussions that I had with the underground professor were done in a very relaxed atmosphere on his fine program. I'm presenting them to you because I feel they only enhance the messages that I have delivered through the way back. The professor has his own unique style of educating, and one means of education is through music. And this is evident in the Prof's show opening, which is perhaps the best podcast opening that there is.
Miracle at UGP. Are you ready for a miracle with UGP? Oh, radio is here for you. We're gonna learn something new. Are you ready for a miracle at UGP?
Jesus went onto the well and made the water wine. Raised the Lazarus from the dead, restored sight to the blind. Jesus said, "Look at me." He walked across the sea. We gave power to you and me. I want to know. Are you ready for a miracle? I want to know. Are you ready for a miracle?
For you and me.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Ready. Woo. Are you ready for a miracle with you and me?
Jesus taught the lame to walk, destroyed the devil's plan. Healed the leper, fed 5,000 with just one command. He said, "You are let them hear." He told the multitude, and blessed be the pure of heart, for they shall see the truth. I want to know. I want to know. Ooh, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
Are you ready for a miracle? I am the Underground Professor, coming at you almost live high atop a double rainbow, sharing it with the Agadorable himself, the unpleasant blind guy, on this show, The Way Back, Part 3. And so, without further ado, let me see if I can get his mic on without losing control of my show, as usually happens. It's hot, and I've still got control, so let's see if Ag's there. Ag.
It's hot, you're hot, I'm hot.
It's in the 90s in October, man. It's just not right.
Oh, well, it's probably in the 50s up here.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful up here, Prof. Really loving it.
Today's show is The Way Back with Agadorable himself, the unpleasant blind guy. And this is part 3, the end, I believe, right? So.
Yep. This is the end of it.
So we've made it through the stretch. So how do you want to play? You want me to play your bit and then talk, or you want to talk and then play the bit, or how do you want to work this?
Well, I'll preface it a little bit. For those who have heard the show before, when I did it a couple of years ago, it'll start out. Part 3 will start out with stuff you haven't heard before, because I wanted to add some things. I wanted to fill in the corners, as I say, like as the hobbits do when they're having a celebration. There were a few things that I didn't say in a couple of years ago that I wanted to say. This will be the finished product, and I'll use this every year around this time, because as long as I'm able, and that's a help. This will be this is a work of my life, and it may be the most important thing I ever do. It certainly, at this point, it's the biggest thing I've ever done. So if you've heard this before, this will be some new stuff that you haven't heard. And by the way, thank you to Kel Fritzy of Red Fox Radio for helping me. We kind of went back and cleaned up your show from last Sunday, Prof. So everybody gets to hear the conversation you and I had on part 2. So I encourage people to go back and listen to that show.
Well, every good boxer has a cut man in their corner, and Kel's our cut man.
Oh, yep. Amen to that. Yeah. She is first class, and I want to thank her for helping out. And Prof, again, I want to thank you for allowing me to do all this. But without
Kel
further
says it's a great series, Dave. Not mentioning my role in all this, but that's okay. I'm going to have to go back and listen to how she recut it, because I might not even be in it anymore.
No. I was the one that did all the cutting and all that stuff. So. I really wanted to get that conversation in with you. This has been a great adjunct to it, and you added something to it. You added something to the entire concept, which as you listen, as folks listen to part 3, you'll see that this is exactly what I said to do. You did what I said to do before I said to do it. So with that, Prof, if you want to go ahead and play the bit, then we'll talk about it after.
That's me, always coloring out of the lines. I'm that guy that gets caught when you go take a test and the proctor says, no one lift their pencil or open the page, and I'm like on page 3 already. So, okay, here we go. Agador's The Way Back, Part 3.
And you can hear Part 3 of The Way Back at the SHR Media YouTube page, or you can listen to the entire recording of The Way Back on the Unpleasant Blind Guy YouTube page.
Anno Domini. I think that means half-off pizza at Domino's, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly did a couple of nights ago, boy.
Well, I would not want to be in Arlington, Texas right now. We got the Cowboy game getting out, and you got the Ranger game starting at 7. Oh, my gosh, I can't believe what the traffic would be like there. So, I used to call myself the Underground Professor because I figured that when the country goes tango uniform, that I'll sneak into the underground and be that guy that starts teaching people to create a rebellion and a resistance movement and guerrilla warfare type thing, and then go after. And but the exceptional conservative outed me, so I guess now I've moved up in status to being one of the frontline sacrifices for when the
Muslims take over. I'll be one of the first they hunt down and take out, or try to take out. I don't know how many will be laying around my feet when they do it, but they'll come after me eventually, I'm sure.
Well, but the point is, until that time comes, you can teach, and as I said last week, you can create a lot more underground professors.
I hope.
You can just be the original.
Do you remember the show I did that I called Watch One, Do One, Teach One?
Actually, I believe I do.
Yeah,
you might want to expand on that, though.
Yeah, the premise being that in medical school, you watch a procedure, then you do the procedure you just watched, and then you teach it. And the reason for that is that watching you learn how to do it, then doing it, you actually get the mechanics of the procedure out of the way. But then when you teach it, you learn it from a different perspective, and you learn it so much better than just having witnessed the situation. And I always did that in my classrooms with important concepts. I would go through the concept of watch one, do one, teach one. And by doing that, whether my students even knew they were or not, I would demonstrate or give some examples, and then I would have others reiterate it, and then I would have them, or give me some of their own, and then I would have them explain to the class why their concepts were correct. And what they ended up doing was the watch one, do one, teach one methodology. And so I'd like to think that that's what I'm doing here. When I hear people use the term constitutionally federated republic and things like that, then I realize that that's what's happening. The people are listening to me do it, and now they're doing it, and hopefully they'll go out and teach others about it. And so you're a perfect example. You watched me do it, then you've done it, and now you're out teaching others. So, hoo-ah.
Well, yeah, and that is because you said it, and then I thought about it, and I realized that makes a whole lot of sense, because that's where we're at. Or that's where we started, rather. I mean, and it made such common sense that I started adding that to my language. Yeah. I've heard other people say it too.
Ken tries to say it, but he's not very successful at it. Well, being an English major, I guess that's really causing him some problems.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true. But he does give it a try. So I give him an A for effort. He does. Yes. He does give it a shot. I give him an A for effort.
Well, we graded on an affirmative action curve, the bell curve for him, so he gets an A.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Every time, because if he doesn't get an A, it's racist, and we don't want that. But people, you mentioned Ken. People like Ken are going to have to be out there as well. His biggest draw as a podcaster is that he makes people feel every story that he relates. It doesn't matter if it's Cecil Mills or obviously his daughter Sharnice, or stories about unsolved murders, cold cases in D.C. He has a method of imparting that to people that makes them give a damn. And that is a talent that we need more of. The people in our corner need more of, and it's a natural talent. It's not something you can learn. It's just something he can do. But people like him are going to be some of the natural teachers as we move forward, and people like yourself who are more grounded in the historical aspects and things of that nature. It comes down, as I said, to doing what you can do. You guys will approach the same story with a different perspective, but they're equally valid, and they both should be listened to equally, and they both can teach, and they're both things that people can engage in. Ken Ken can make someone go out and sign an online petition or start a rally or go to a church or something like that. You make people go out and do research and then teach others. In a way, Prof, we can all be teachers, even schmucks like me, because not only can you learn from anybody, that's one of my bromides. I can learn from anybody, but everybody can teach in their own way. Everyone has their own method of teaching, and it doesn't matter how it is. Now, in the past, 3 weeks or so, close to a month, we've talked about people who can go out there and pick a guitar and sing a song, and people like what they're singing. And if they throw a message in there, well, that's teaching. People can write, some people can, and that's a method of teaching. Some people can do stand-up comedy, and it's really entertaining, and they can teach that way. These are our methods that the left has used for generations, and they're methods that we should use, in my opinion. Your thoughts?
The most important way people can teach, especially conservatism, is to live their lives by example, to do the right thing, and to be moral and ethical as much as possible. And when you fail, to stand back up, dust yourself off, and try harder again tomorrow. That will teach people more than anything else in society how to behave and how to work, and that it's effective. As long as it's not done in a hypocritical manner, then the teaching's good. But you're right, everyone can teach. This is why I like having progtards come on my show, but none will, is because of the illustration I get to use to expose them, because then they teach what it's about, what they believe, and that, more than what I could tell people, is an enforcement of teaching, but even people like that unwittingly teach. But for those who think, oh, I can't teach, I think that's really what you're getting at, and that is that we all do, and we do it 1,000 times a day. Whether we lean over somebody's shoulder and point out something to them, or we have a child. If you're a parent, then you can teach. Again, by example or by instruction, but you're still teaching constantly as a parent. So it's nothing that you have to leave just to the educators. And as far as education goes, I think we need to consciously start getting people recruited into the education world. And we need to do it also in the entertainment world. I've noticed more and more people in Hollywood are coming out, and the new coming out, black's the new orange. Well, today the new coming out is admitting that you believe in the Constitution, and you're seeing this in the military, you're seeing it in Hollywood, you're seeing it in television shows and whatnot. I've been watching and listening, and it's amazing how there'll be a tiny little conservative message here and there. One sentence, one statement, one look. And I think that's going to grow. It's terrible we're facing the dilemmas we are in this country, but the good news is the more they do this, the more unabashed they do it. And they're willing to, say and do things. I'm going to kill you if you don't shut up. The more hey,
just like that.
Yeah, just like that. See, I'm teaching.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And,
perfect example.
To make sure he knew that I knew it wasn't her.
Right.
Well, I forget my line, but we got to get into these fields and fill them, because we basically have surrendered them since the McCarthy witch hunt. We all but quit being in Hollywood and in academia. And we've paid the price utterly for it. While they capitalized on pop culture and the media, we stand around pompously saying that we were better, and you people would just naturally understand that without teaching them, without educating them. And that's the great fault of the Republican Party. Not that our ideas are substandard, but the fact that we do not teach them. And if we do win, we just immediately assume that we've won, and we don't have to ever teach or keep people abreast of what we're doing or why it's the right way.
Well, you're right. I mean, we win elections, but we don't win the hearts and minds of the people. You're absolutely right. Now, I shared earlier a video with you over the Twitter of some atheist talking to Bill Maher, and he was talking about Islam, which we're not talking about this evening, but he was talking about the free speech movement at Berkeley. He said was saying that he could remember this, and this was in the early 1960s, and back then. The free speech movement was exactly that. You could do and actually were encouraged to speak up on whatever ideas you had, and those might be conservative or progressive. It didn't matter. That's turned around on our campuses now. If you let's say for instance you are Bill Maher and you come out and you say that Islam is a problem, you might become disinvited to a commencement address. To give a commencement address at Berkeley, at the very place where the free speech movement supposedly started. So, yes, you are right about that. It is the new coming out when people actually come out with conservative ideas, and it's going to take an awfully long time for things to swing back to more of a center when it comes to people in entertainment who come out and say, yes, I'm a conservative, I'm a constitutionalist, and I'm also a darn good actor, and music is the same way. I actually have a fan. She's one of the few. Loves my shows, but she said she can't share them because she's a musician. And she's afraid that she won't get gigs for herself and her band if she shares out my shows. This is the kind of thing that we have to turn around, because there are more people out there, we know this, that agree with us, that agree with constitutionalism. Forget conservatism for the moment. They agree with constitutionalism. They agree that the Bill of Rights are the cat's rear end. It's great, but they can't come out and openly defend it against people like Muslims who would just throw it in the dustbin of history, because they will lose their livelihoods if they do. If they're an actor, they'll never get a part again. If they're a musician, then they'll lose gigs, and they might not get signed to a record contract or whatever. This is a kind of cultural shift that you're talking about that's beginning, that needs to be continued, and that's why I encourage people in the way back who have talent to go out there and flaunt that talent and get to a point where they can entertain and sell their stuff, and where people want to hear from them, and then begin to slip a conservative message in here and there. That's how it starts. That's how the left did it. And you were bang on with your analysis of what happened to Hollywood after the McCarthy era. I mean, now we know that at this point in history that McCarthy was right in a lot of the things, to go after a lot of the people he did. There was a communist conspiracy going on in the entertainment world at the time. We can argue about the methods that McCarthy used, but
or who knew that it was the Muslim threat we needed to really worry about, not the commies.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Hindsight 2020. We can argue about all of that, but that's pretty useless at this point. What we have to do at this point is try and get people into entertainment and academia and places like that, and get them established, and then they can come out and people can see them. They can and they can be entertained by them, and then by the way, I do not believe in socialism. I believe in capitalism. So there's that aspect of it too.
Well, yes. Let me tell you another thing that we should be doing, and that is and this is in regards to the teaching part. If you know somebody, like say you have a child or grandchild that's in school, or you know a teacher that goes to your church or goes to your health club or lives down the street, however you know them, you should start talking to them, and don't overload them or avalanche them, but just start talking to them about what they teach and how do they know what their teaching's right. And you don't do that by saying, "Hey, how do you know what your teaching's right?" But you ask them how they get the information and where it comes from and who authorizes it, and they'll tell you these things because they're innocent questions, have nothing really to do with them. This is out of their scope of control. And then you may start asking them some questions like, well, what do they teach about the Boston Tea Party or George Washington or what? And then you can say, oh my goodness, I've never heard it like that. And then you can start telling them the reality and the truth. Of course, which you can get here, and but you do this slowly and without it being like you're educating them, but just in a casual conversation. But we need to do this with teachers because I blame teachers for the problems we have in school, but most of them don't even know what they're teaching's wrong because they go to school and they're given this stuff and they're told this is what they need to teach, and they assume it's correct. And the teachers that are teaching them may not even know it's wrong. It's the ones that created it that know that they were creating falsehoods. But once it gets, a generation or two down with some revisions and whatnot, people tend to lose that fact. And that's why we have to educate in the first place in our country, because our education system has changed from teaching. Let me rephrase this. The one thing about public schools that has always been consistent is that its job was to teach us about government. Now, the Founding Fathers, their concept of it was to teach us about the Constitution and how government was supposed to work so that if it wasn't, we would know and we could go after those responsible. Today, the role of government or the schools is to teach people that government is there for them from cradle to grave and everything they do is awesome. Even when they fail, it's with good intentions, so don't blame them and help them try again. And because of that, we need to re-educate our educators, and we need to do it in a non-threatening manner. And so when I say watch one, do one, teach one, that's your target. Back to you.
Yeah.
That's it for this time. Next time, the Wayback Commentaries 2015 continues with the Underground Professor.
Agador and the Underground Professor, both sitting high atop a double rainbow, gaily swinging our feet over the Hermitage of North Texas's liberal conservative studies. This has been copyrighted in the year of your Lord 2015, via con carne for the Agadorable fans and via con toodles for mine.
I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye. The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2015, Anno Domini.